Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Here we go. It's time to talk about sports. Going to do a Tuesday special. I try to keep it real, but Tuesdays and Thursdays have podcast episodes on there, so forth. So here we go. I got to talk about the Michigan State arch rivalry. We got I'm going to go over here and I'm going to show my display of this, and then we'll go from here. I'm going to add this one. Look, do you love this new Michigan State kind of the chat GPT I using for this art gallery thingamajig that I'm doing? But folks, we got to talk about the Michigan State game, the 31-20 uh, victory for the Maize and Blue. Um, it was kind of rough in the beginning of the first half, folks. Michigan State had an opportunity to take down Michigan. They had um, Michigan really had a lot of problems with Bryce Underwood in the pocket throwing the football. He only had 86 yards with no touchdowns, no interceptions, 8 for 17. He ran for 26 yards. But the storyline about Michigan and Michigan State may be the fact that the quarterbacks are really, really struggling. Michigan State's quarterback, Aiden Chill, um, 14 for 28, 130 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Um, However, I think that talk about Michigan State uh, upbeat offense pace when they kept when they went to a no huddle offense against Michigan, they moved the ball down the field relatively easy. Uh, they just had a better look to it. I felt like Aiden Chill had a better understanding how to run the offense in that form and shape. For Michigan, if it wasn't for Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall for the rushing game, they had over 262 yards of rushing, 3 touchdowns between them two. Justin Hayes had 152 yards for 2 touchdowns. Jordan Marshall 110 yards for 1 touchdown. When Michigan slows the game down and keeps the ball down on the ground, they look really good at 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 a certain point. When they can't throw the football, it it's kind of a questionable thing to think about how well Michigan's going to be able to control the game when they can't seem to throw the ball. Bryce Underwood's biggest issue in my book is actually uh, throwing the ball like a dart really hard. It doesn't matter if it's a 30-yard pass to anyone or a 10 or 15-yard pass to his tight end or wide receivers. That is a question that you're going to have with Bryce Underwood. Is he going to be able to have a more of a feel towards throwing the ball, having more of a touch, not throwing the ball so hard? I feel like he needs to complete more completions. Uh, it seems like when he is in the pocket, he doesn't go to his his sets. He goes to one and to two sets, and then runs with the football or stays in the pocket too long. Um, but saying that Michigan did have a good weekend, uh, they just seem to be able to uh, understand how to get into Michigan State's underbelly. Michigan State had a lot of penalties. They had over 12 penalties, I think, for like 100 yards or something like that. It was nuts. But if you look at the team stats, uh, third down possessions, 6 for 15 for Michigan, 5 for 16 for State, fourth down conversions, 1 for 3 for Michigan State, 1 for 1 for Michigan. Um, but saying that, that's one of those questionable things about Michigan. Their third down conversions. Are they going to be able to do that against Ohio State? Purdue maybe it'd be an easier pickings for them. And they only had 362 yards of total yards for Michigan, only 305 yards total for Michigan State. Again, going to that passing, Michigan only had 86 yards in the air. You want that to be like 150 at least when you're in college football, especially if you're a dominant running team in itself. So it would make sense that we have less uh, receiving yards and more rushing yards based on how Michigan's built. But 86 yards is way too less. They need a lot more. They need at least 150 yards in the air. Michigan State, when they ran their upbeat uh, tempo offense, they actually had 190 yards in total. The completions was 8 for 17 for Michigan, uh, and 19 for 34 for Michigan State. Those two stats are not really great for either of those teams. 5.1 yards for Michigan, 5.6 for Michigan State. No interceptions. Um, Rushing 275 yards. 26 of those yards were from Bryce Underwood to make up 275 with the other two running backs involved. The rushing attempts 49, Michigan State 38, rushing per uh, down was 5.6 for Michigan, 3.7 for Michigan State, or 3.6. Penalties, 6 penalties for Michigan, 61 yards. We didn't really do that bad with the penalties for Michigan. Um, but Michigan State had 12 penalties for 105 yards. So, and the time possessions was 30 minutes for Michigan, 29 minutes for Michigan State. So the tempo of the game was kind of played into Michigan State's hand, but they just couldn't figure out how to keep themselves from getting from penalties. And they, when they had to slow the game down to a slower tempo, they had a little issues with that. So going on to the to um, Detroit Pistons basketball, I have to really just talk about um, the first half of the Cleveland Cavaliers game against Detroit. Detroit Pistons are 2-1 record. So is Cleveland Cavaliers. But this game in itself, going into the second half, as I'm watching it, uh, Detroit is down 74-46. There's a lot of questions about who's going to help Kate Cunningham. Uh, you think that Duncan Robinson was going to be able to be the guy, but he needs to be kind of a set up guy as well. So he needs the ball being thrown around to him as for a 3-point shot or for a 2-point shot. Kate Cunningham is making too many turnovers. Only because I say this because he's been forcing the ball, and a lot of times um, there's no one there to pick up the slack. If Duncan Robinson can't make shots and he's not being able to be set up, I mean Isaiah Stewart is not your offensive guy. Jalen Duran, he's the guy that you want to do a lot of pick and rolls with, but if it's only a 1-2 punch thing, and Duncan Robinson or the guys coming off the bench like Ronald Howard or Dennis Jenkins. Well, Ronald Howard I think is starting, but Dennis Jenkins and Javante Green, they really are struggling to uh, to participate in the game for Detroit. So that's something that you got to have to consider that without Malik Beasley, who's no longer on the team, and without Dennis Shorter, who went to Sacramento, you're losing a lot of offense on that, a lot of spark in Detroit. Detroit in the first quarter is like negative 32 points, I think, and I mean negative 35 points plus 32 points in the second quarter, but that didn't really do much difference in the second quarter for Detroit against Cleveland. Cleveland, they're just basically running wild against Detroit. If you look at the box score for Detroit or for Cleveland, I mean you got um, uh, Donovan Mitchell. He's already got Um, he's already got 18 points. Devondre uh, Hunter, he's got 13 points already. Jarrett Allen, he's got 16. Evan Mobley has got 10 points. Everyone on Cleveland is just really taking it to Detroit. There's nothing that's happening in Detroit. Tobias Harris is the only player in Detroit as of right now in double digits to 10 points. Uh, Duncan Robinson only got 8 as of right now. Jalen Duran's got 8 points. Cade Cunningham's got 9 points, but he's got more turnovers than you can ever imagine because he's trying to do too much. Cade Cunningham as of right now is only 2 for 12. Uh, Sir Thompson, he's got better ball skills, but this year than last year. But he's only got 6.3 for 6. A lot of bad shots taken by Detroit Pistons against Cleveland. Uh, they're they're in a lot of trouble, I think, as the season goes by. If Devontae Green can't pick up the slack off the bench, and Jenkins needs to take more shots. He did have a couple shots that he could have shot, but dished it out back to Cade Cunningham and made Cade Cunningham make a really bad attempt for a 3-pointer. He missed a couple of those shots because of that reason. But let's go to the NFL. I think we should really talk about the Jets in Cincinnati Bengals. Congratulations to Aaron Glenn of the Jets winning his first game as a head coach with the Jets. Um, Justin Fields, there he did a fantastic job to not turn over the ball. Um, you kind of knew that they were going to win this game of what happened last week. They just you kind of could see that they were just a couple plays away from last week to this week. Uh, you know, when you got Joe Flacco, a 40-year-old guy as a quarterback for Cincinnati Bengals, you're going to get your plus and minuses with that as well. So if you get to that point where you're going to have a bad game with uh with Flacco, then it happens. It just does. Another another upsetting talk about um football is the Minnesota Vikings game against San Diego. You think when you got Carson Wentz, you think that this guy's supposed to have some idea on how to be a quarterback again in the NFL, but he had a bad shoulder. He's done for the season. He's going to have surgery. Not a good way for Minnesota. Uh, Waiting for JJ McCarthy to come back, and he's coming back next week, I think. But San Diego, Justin Herbert, 3 touchdowns. Um, you can't say much about him. They had Daniel Jones on the team, and they had Sam Darnold on the team. And I don't know what I would have done if I was the Minnesota Vikings, if I would have tried to keep Sam Darnold to play the bench role, but you can't. I mean, how do you keep a guy from going to a team that needs a quarterback right now, like in Seattle? And especially with Dan Jones, 7-1 with the Colts, he's a surprise story in itself. I didn't think that he was that good in the first place, but apparently he just wasn't a bad setup, bad field, bad team with the Giants. It wasn't his fault. The team was just not ready for it. Speaking of the Giants and Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles got the revenge on the Giants. Um, Unfortunately, Cam Scatterboo broke his ankle. Um, he's one of those guys that you kind of pulling for him to do well because he has a lot of heart. He was energetic. He's a football guy. He knows what his role on the football team. He plays hard, and one thing leads to another, and he breaks his ankle. I mean, it's a result of doing too much. I think too much, too fast, too quick. However you want to put it that way. It is just a horrible idea, a horrible thing to happen to Cam Scatterbo. I hope he has a good recovery, um, and we'll see him next year or maybe in a year and a couple months down the road, following 2026 season. Uh, the Falcons, the Miami Dolphins. This is got to be a crazy story. The Dolphins was 1-6. Now they're 2-6, and the Falcons were at home with Kirk Cousins, waiting on Michael Penix Jr. to get better soon. Don't know what happened to Kirk Cousins. I can't figure this guy out. Kirk Cousins had a good career, well, a decent career with the Commanders or the Redskins at that one point when they were the Redskins in Washington, and he had a good, decent career with Minnesota Vikings. And I think that that him getting traded or yeah or signing with Atlanta Falcons, um, and then having the Atlanta Falcons draft Penix Jr. really played a brain fart on his confidence. Uh, there's nothing that you want to see a guy to go through that much um, pressure or not pressure, but disappointment. But Miami, uh, Tua had an infection in the eye. He just was ill. Something was going on with his eye, but I mean, he threw the ball 20 for 26, 205 yards, 4 touchdowns. He just really did what he needed to do. I mean, he threw 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers. Jaden Waddle, 5 receptions, 99 yards. The longest one was 43 yards, targeted 6 times, 1 touchdown. Malik Robinson, 4 receptions, 36 yards. Longest is 17, 1 touchdown, 5 targets. Devontae Chain, the running back, had 5 receptions, 24 yards, um, 1 touchdown, and 7 targets. And the longest reception was 10 yards. Orlade Gordon, 20-yard touchdown. I mean, so Tua looks like he knows what he's doing, and it's looking pretty good for him. And basically, what you're going to get. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. We could talk about Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers, Green Bay. Uh, Whenever they have Tucker Kraft on the field, Green Bay looks good. It's almost Love's go-to guy. I think Tucker had like 143 yards. The longest one was 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. Look pretty amazing. Um, I don't. I'm not going to put really nothing into this uh, Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers just because the game itself was not in Green Bay. It was in the Steelers zone, so not much to it. This is Aaron Rodgers last year, so I mean, it looked like Green Bay got his number for that in itself. Uh, but the World Series is going on right now. If we're going to the World Series, uh, the Dodgers are up right now 1-0. Um, we look at here, uh, it looks like they scored off uh, a horrendous home run to left field in the second inning, the bottom of the second. So I'm pulling for Toronto. I think a lot of people are not really, they just don't want the Dodgers to win anything anymore. They're turning into too much like the New York Yankees, where they win, they buy stuff, and they buy players, and it's just ridiculous. But here we go, folks. If you enjoy this podcast, I know it was a little flickery, a little in and out about a little bit of everything. I didn't sit on a lot of topics about uh, Detroit Lions didn't play this weekend, so there was not much to talk about with Detroit. Michigan won. State. Um, they had that chance. Um, and then I talked about the Falcons. Kirk Cousins, don't know what his prime is. Minnesota Vikings got killed. Daniel Jones, uh, Sam Darnold not on the team no more. Obviously, Carson Wentz. Eh, something to think about. But all right, folks. If you enjoy this show, follow me, subscribe, YouTube, uh, Patreon, anywhere that you can download the podcast, you can find it. If you can't find it, go to rss.com. I'm on there. Uh, on the Patreon, please pay to subscribe. $5. All I'm asking helps me page out. Peace, love, and I'm out of here.